All right, stand by. 10 seconds to go.
Ready, camera.
Record.
3, 2, 1.
Record.
Greetings and thanks so much for joining us. This is The Rundown, where we run down some of the big stories making headlines. I'm your host, John Phillips. Joining us from Washington, D.C. is PJTV contributor Michelle Fields. And here in studio, we're joined by stand-up comic Stephen Cruiser. On today's show, we're going to give you our predictions for 2015, and let's go ahead and begin with Mr. Cruiser.
My prediction for the new year, I believe that the civil unrest we've seen at the end of 2014 will unfortunately escalate. Not only has President Obama failed to calm things down, he more often than not subtly fans the flames, and this could lead to much worse than what the nation saw in the 1960s when the protesters then were actually juxtaposed to the power in Washington. Now, the power in Washington is going out of its way to express empathy with unruly mobs while undermining law enforcement. The media is, of course, complicit in all of this when they take isolated examples of police misconduct and, in tandem with radical activists, portray them as the norm. Now, I thought long and hard about this, and I don't want this to be true, but I don't see how it gets any better. I don't know where there's going to be a calming influence coming in all of this. It has to get much worse before it can get better, because nobody in the upper levels of government has come in to do anything to calm anything down right now. And if anybody does it at the state or municipal level, then you've got the radicals and the libertarians out with the militarization of police, and it's all spinning out of control for a while. And I think it's a logical extension of what the Occupy people wanted to have happen a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think you could be right. And here's one thing that I hope comes out of this that, politically speaking at least, should have happened a long time ago. When will police unions stop giving money and endorsing Democratic candidates? When these people get elected to office, they use their power and their authority to slit the throats of the people who finance their campaigns. And beyond this, and I know this is a separate issue, but private sector unions should also think about endorsing Republicans and giving money to Republicans because, again, Democrats represent the public sector unions, non-police now, and they slit their throats. But this is outreach that Republicans, and I know Rand Paul is going to a lot of the big cities. He's been to Detroit. He's, I think he went to Ferguson at one point in time, and he's trying to provide Republican outreach to those communities. But the communities I think the Republicans should be reaching out to more than any are the police unions.
Well, I think Mayor Bill de Blasio in New York has heard your cries and is doing everything he can to make sure police unions vote Republican soon, because they were the first people to come out publicly and be really mad at him after his response to the Eric Garner thing. They were not the Police Benevolent Association in Manhattan was not happy with. They said he threw us under the bus, which is exactly what he did. Now,
but so did Obama.
That's the problem here right now. Michelle, you know, we talk about the new Republican majority coming in and everything, but they don't have the kind of powers to like clamp down on things like this in the long haul. Do you think there's going to have to be some response from Washington at some point, some shift in what the Department of Justice is doing or what the president is doing to calm all of this down? Do you think and do you even think it's possible that there will be that shift?
I don't think so. I think the only shift we're going to see happen is when President Obama is out of office. As long as President Obama is in there and he's having people like Al Sharpton come into the White House to hear his advice and his opinion, this is going to be a big deal. And we have a media who loves these types of stories. They loved the Ferguson, the Trayvon Martin, and we have, on top of it, universities that are now giving students passes for not doing their exams, their final exams, if they feel as though they were affected and very upset about what happened in Ferguson and what happened in New York. So I think it's just going to continue happening until the president gets out of office. I don't think anything's going to change. Every time there's a situation like this, people are going to go crazy, and President Obama is going to give a wishy-washy speech.
Yeah, that stuff with the college campuses excusing kids from exams right now because they have bad feelings about Ferguson or anything. I floated to a little political group of friends of mine. I said, well, what's a bigger long-term threat to the United States, Islamic terrorism or this kind of thing? And they said, really, this kind of thing. But what, Michelle?
That shows that they don't want it to stop. They want it to continue.
Yes.
They're scared of it actually dying down. So that's why they're giving all of these kids excuses for their final exams, because they want
here's my
this
conspiracy
to continue
theory.
going on.
Yeah.
My conspiracy theory is that the left looks at these protests and they see what could be the left-wing Tea Party. emerging.
Well,
And
I
they
saw an
how
article. I
effective-
saw an article to that effect the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, out of in some obscure thing, but yeah.
I mean, they saw how effective the Tea Party was at the ballot box, and so they wanted the Occupy movement was never able to translate that type of anger into electoral success. The Tea Party was.
Well, here's why it's never going to happen for them, because these idiots who are out protesting right now, most of them don't know the difference between who the players are or anything. They're just there to protest for the sake of protesting. Occupy never was a movement. The Tea Party movement was a movement because people left the protest and then started becoming parts of the local Republican Party, started working for candidates and things. These idiot college kids who are out there trying to get out of exams right now will never do any of that. Some of them might, but what the academic stuff where they're excusing kids and, oh, we understand it, they're tipping their hand, proving that they are the root of all of this and have been all along. They were the ones that started creating this kind of situation in the 70s. It's the 60s radicals who have taken power now, and it's got to be stopped. I'm like, okay, drone the campuses right now. Drone them.
All right, Michelle, what do you have for us?
All right, my prediction for 2015, President Obama's approval rating is going to continue to drop because of Obamacare. The Department of Health and Human Services said that premiums under Obamacare will rise modestly in 2015 compared to 2014. The most popular and cheapest plan is the Silver plan, and that will see premiums rise by about 10%. What are your predictions, John, when it comes to Obamacare? Do you think people have closed the book on Obamacare and are just accepting of it, or do you think people are going to continue to get upset regarding the premiums rising?
Oh, I think the damage will continue to be done. I just saw a poll on Fox News' website, foxnews.com, about President Obama's popularity or approval rating among young people, which is now at a record low. So young people are getting their new premiums in the mail, and they're not seeing the dip that they were promised. They're seeing these premiums go through the roof, and they're seeing the plans that they liked go away entirely. So I still think there's more anger out there to go around.
And if the Republicans can play this well, thanks to the huge assist from Jonathan Gruber, as people's premiums go up more this year, as it hurts the middle class even more, if they can undo just a little bit of this and do the publicity right on it, it will be huge for them going into 2016.
And speaking of 2016, my prediction for 2015 is this. President Obama will prove to be so unpopular that Hillary Clinton will be forced to run almost as much against him as her Republican opponents. This will cause friction between her and black voters and create the space for a leftist anti-Hillary to mount a credible challenge to her in the primary. I see the hosts at MSNBC getting behind this candidate as well as many Obama loyalists. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio could be that candidate that galvanizes that group of angry left-wingers. And Stephen Cruiser, this is another subject we spent a lot of time talking about, and you can already see the Democratic primary shaping up this way. MSNBC recently hired an Obama spokesman to be the vice president of communications for the network. In 2008, they got heavily behind Barack Obama over Hillary Clinton. It looks like they're gearing up to do that right now. If Hillary Clinton does not embrace President Obama entirely, which she can't do if she wants to win in November, then I don't see how she keeps black voters as supporters in the primary when there's an alternative.
She knows, I don't think she knows, her handlers know right now, because you have to remember that the Clinton political and media machine is very well oiled. It is a great machine still. She may be a horrible candidate. The machine is a great machine. They know that she's vulnerable from the left now because they've had her in the last couple of weeks go out and embrace some things that President Obama has done, like his response to the Ferguson incident. You know, and at a time when most people are running in the opposite direction from the president, the woman who has not embraced him much at all and who had been trying to distance herself suddenly decided to embrace him a little bit, and I'm sure that was calculated because they know that they may be even more vulnerable from the left now than they are from the right. But it's a dance that she cannot do. You're right. She's going to have to embrace him fully, and I don't think she can do that, and it's going to blow everything up. And you want to talk about a bloody primary? People forget what the Democratic primaries used to think. You think that last Republican one was bad? I remember some of the Democratic ones from the 70s when I was a kid. Those were bloody primaries and fun political theater.
You know, Michelle, back here in California, our Governor Jerry Brown always likes to say that in the primary, or when you're running for office, rather, it's like being in a canoe. And in the primary, you have to paddle a little bit to the left, and in the general, you paddle a little bit to the right, and that's how you win an election. would it be possible for Hillary Clinton to fully embrace President Obama in the primary and then kind of cut ties with him in the general? Could she play that dance, or is that being too smart by half?
No, I don't think she'll do that. First off, her and her husband do not like President Obama and the First Lady. They have a lot of tension. So I think that it's a pride thing that they won't embrace him. But also, President Obama's going to be so unpopular, like you said, that I don't think she's going to want to embrace him. And so much of her record is tied to President Obama. So I think what she's going to say when she's criticized for her time as Secretary of State, she's going to say, look, I was doing what my boss, the executive, told me to do. I voiced my concerns behind the scenes, but I had to do what, the person who hired me and appointed me wanted me to do. So she's going to distance herself from it. So she's going to have a problem there, because I do believe that the media loves President Obama. And if you talk to a lot of reporters here in Washington, D.C. who lean to the left, they'll tell you off the record that they hate Hillary Clinton's people. They hate them so much because they're rude, they're mean, they're nasty. So I think there's room for someone like a Bill de Blasio or an Elizabeth Warren to come who they're both sort of media darlings. And I think that that's going to put Hillary in a vulnerable position, because I think the media is going to end up flocking to someone like Elizabeth Warren or Bill de Blasio.
Michelle makes a great point there. A lot of people also forget that the Clinton machine is well-oiled and functional because they are ruthless and awful. And back in the day, they had Bill to lead sort of a charm offensive and put a more palatable face on the thing. They're not getting that face from the madam here. They're not getting that face from her inevitable ship. So it's going to be exposed to its ruthless core, I think.
Michelle?
As an example, BuzzFeed has actually published some of the emails. Obviously, a lot of people, it was controversial. They said they shouldn't have done it, but they posted some of the emails, just an email exchange between BuzzFeed reporters and Hillary Clinton's people, where you see how ruthless and mean Hillary Clinton's people is. And BuzzFeed just did it because they wanted people to see just how awful the Hillary Clinton machine is. So for reporters to do that to a left-leaning politician shows how much they dislike the politician and their people.
No question. That's going to do it for today's show. We want to know what you think about our predictions. Be sure to leave your comments in the comments section below. I'm John Phillips for Stephen Cruiser, joining me here in Los Angeles, and Michelle Fields in the nation's capital. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.